Nobody noticed Linda at FreshMart Supercenter in Riverside Falls, Arizona, until that night, when three armed men walked through the automatic doors. Everyone screamed, everyone ran, except Linda. She didn't run. She didn't hide. What she did in 73 seconds changed everything. But those 73 seconds revealed who Linda really was, and nobody was ready for that. So who was Linda really? And why could a 42-year-old cashier handle three armed men? Linda Marie Carson had been working Register 7 for 2 years, but there were strange things about Linda. Why was she constantly checking the exits? Why did she pay such attention to customers' hands? And what were those thin scars on her hands? Her managers described Linda as the perfect employee. Never late, never sick, never complained. But something was missing. She never talked about herself. For 2 years, nobody had learned where Linda was born, where she came from, or why she chose this small town. And those odd habits? Why did she always sit alone during breaks? Why did she never use her phone? And strangest of all, why did she check security camera angles when closing her register? Marcus, the security guard, once said, "Linda moves like she's constantly expecting a threat." But this is Riverside Falls. What threat could there be? Marcus was about to get his answer in just a few hours. These 25th, Tuesday night, 9:45 p.m. As Linda was processing the last customers, headlights appeared through the automatic doors, but Linda's body language suddenly changed. Why? Because something was wrong with that car. The license plate too new. 3 people in hoodies, in Arizona in June. And how had Linda caught these details so quickly? When the 3 men entered, Linda looked calm, but her eyes were different. Why would a civilian cashier automatically assess exit routes, security cameras, and potential weapons? In that moment when Linda moved, the motion she made while closing her register wasn't normal. That movement had military precision. But how did Linda know military movements? And why had she already formed a plan in her mind? "Everybody down!" When the first gun came out, everyone screamed. But Linda didn't scream. Why? And while raising her hands, why did she appear to be trembling but actually maintain her composure?
"Open the register now."
The second man pointed his gun at Linda. Linda raised her hands and said, "Please don't hurt me." But there was something in her voice, like she was acting, but why? Linda leaned toward the register, but her movement, that movement, wasn't a normal cashier movement. That was a tactical movement. But how did Linda know tactical movements? And then it happened. In 2.3 seconds, Linda neutralized the second man. Wrist strike, solar plexus hit, head slam. Where did these movements come from? Nobody could move that fast. Or could they? But the real shock happened then, when Linda picked up the dropped gun. That grip, that stance, that sight alignment. Linda wasn't holding that gun for the first time. It was like she'd held that gun thousands of times. "Drop your weapon!" Linda's voice had changed. She was no longer the scared cashier. This was a voice accustomed to giving commands. But who was Linda to give such commands? The first man was in shock. "What the hell is happening?" Yes, what was happening? 2 minutes ago, Linda was just a cashier. Now she was... Linda's movement was perfect. Sidestep, low position, controlled fire, but not lethal, shoulder wound. How did Linda know non-lethal shooting? And why had she made a reloading motion? There were already bullets in the gun. When the third man tried to escape, Linda's tackle move, that move doesn't exist in civilians. That was a professional restraint technique. Where had Linda learned it? 73 seconds. 3 armed men neutralized, and Linda was standing there like a normal cashier again, but now everyone knew this woman was not normal. Who are you?" asked the young mother. Linda's hesitation said everything. "I'm just—" But she couldn't finish the sentence because the just a cashier story was no longer valid. But what was Linda's real identity, and why had she hidden in this small town? When Sheriff Deputy Johnson arrived, he was shocked by the scene. 3 neutralized robbers, no civilian casualties, and a cashier standing in the middle. "Ma'am, did you neutralize these men?" Linda's answer, "I defended myself." But Johnson was an experienced officer. He could see Linda's posture. That posture, that meant professional training. "Have you worked in law enforcement before?" "No." "Military background?" Linda's silence was the answer. But what kind of military background, and why was she keeping it secret? "Ma'am, these aren't moves learned from YouTube. You've had professional training." There was no point in hiding anymore. "I'm former military." "Which branch?" "Army, military police." But Johnson's instincts told him Linda was hiding more. The next day, Johnson investigated Linda. The file was very thin, suspiciously thin, as if someone had erased Linda Carson's past. But why? The information from his military contacts was shocking. Staff Sergeant Linda Carson, Army Criminal Investigation Division, undercover operations, specialty high-value target apprehension, Iraq, Afghanistan, classified missions. Linda wasn't just military police. Linda was in special operations, on the most dangerous missions. 2019 medical discharge, reason classified, but the biggest question remained unanswered. Why was Linda hiding as a cashier in Riverside Falls? What was she concealing? Johnson called Linda back. "Sergeant Carson." Linda's reaction. Nobody had called her by rank in years. That the question remained. "Why are you working here?" "Because the war is over, Sheriff. The life goes on." But was that the real reason? Or was Linda hiding something else? 6 months later, Linda was still working at FreshMart. But she was no longer just a cashier. Evenings, she trained police officers. Weekends, she taught women self-defense. One evening, a young customer asked, "Do you ever miss it? Military life?" Linda's answer solved the final mystery. Military life never ends. It just changes location. I'm still protecting people. Just now my uniform is different. That was it. Linda wasn't running away. Linda was still on duty. She was just protecting Riverside Falls now. And that night, 3 robbers learned how effective a protector Linda still was. Linda's real story was this. Some people return from war and retire. Others continue to serve, just in a different way. Linda Carson was never just a cashier. She was always a protector. And Riverside Falls learned that night that it had a protector. The greatest heroes don't wear costumes. Sometimes they wear cashier aprons. And until you notice them, they've already started protecting you. Have you ever thought that the ordinary person next to you might actually be extraordinary? Because maybe right now there's a hero beside you and you're not even aware of it.